So this is the third part of the review for the CFA coming up, and this is actually the function operations and composition of functions. So what we're going to look at here is we're going to look at the function operations, which are ways that we combine two different functions. And function operations can encompass addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then composition, which we will get to last. So the first one we're going to do is a subtraction of these two functions. So f of x equals x cubed plus 2x minus 3, and then g of x equals 2x squared plus 5. So we want to find f minus g of x. So what does that mean? Well, that basically means we're going to take f of x and we're going to subtract g of x. So I know f of x and I know g of x. Pretty simple. One thing you have to be careful of, especially when you're doing a subtraction, is that you keep the signs correct. So the first thing we're going to do is I've got f of x. F of x is x cubed plus 2x minus 3. Then I'm going to subtract, and here's what's important. I'm going to put parentheses because I'm going to subtract the entire function of g of x. G of x is 2x squared plus 5. I am not just subtracting the 2x squared. I am subtracting the entire function. Now, why is that important? Well, if you don't put parentheses around the function and indicate you're subtracting the entire thing, you will only have the negative go with the first term, and so your answer and your output will be incorrect. So now I'm going to get rid of the parentheses. So I've got x cubed plus 2x minus 3. Minus a positive gives me negative 2x squared, and minus a positive gives me minus 5. After I do this, I just need to go through and combine my like terms. So I have, I'll do it over here, I have x cubed, then I have minus 2x squared, then I've got positive 2x, and I've got a negative 3 and a negative 5, which is negative 8. So this is my final answer. That is your f minus g of x. So let's look at the next one. The next one is actually addition. So we're going to look at addition. F plus g of x means f of x plus g of x, just like in the previous example. So let's go ahead and set it up. This one will be a little bit nicer because it's positive, so we don't have to do any sign changes. So I've got negative 3x squared plus 2x plus 4x squared plus y plus 5. So all I do to finish this out, and again, if you wanted to solve it the same way we did the other one, just so you can see it, you should put the parentheses here. It's not going to affect you here because it's positive. There are no sign changes. So we would actually just rewrite it the same way. You don't have to take this extra step when you have addition, but I will show you just so it's uniform with the previous example. So now I'm going to combine like terms. So I've got a negative 3x squared and a positive 4x squared. So that gives me 1x squared. Cancel those out, cross those out. I have 2x, I have y, and I have 5. So that is the answer to f plus g of x. So let's look at the last example. This is actually a composition of functions. A composition, this is g of f of x. Remember that another way to write that is g of f of x. You can write it this way. You're actually composing two different functions, which means you're going to be combining them and inputting one into the other. So with f of x being on the inside, that's what I'm going to input into the other. So I'm going to actually find, instead of g of f of x, g of, and f of x is actually x squared plus 2x minus 3. And g of x is 3x plus 1. All I've done is take f of x and plug it in for f of x. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this entire value and substitute it in anywhere I see an x. So I'm going to have 3, and then I'm going to plug in the f of x function, x squared plus 2x minus 3, and then plus 1. So my next step is going to be the distributive property. I'm going to distribute. So I'm going to get rid of the 3. 3 times x is 3x squared. 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9 plus 1. And then, of course, my last step is to simplify it as much as I can. So I have 3x squared plus 6x minus 8. And that is my final composition. Again, g of f of x, which is this, it's kind of hard to see, I think, with the way it's written. That's the way it's written. Means f of x is what you're going to plug in for x. And that is how you compose two functions.